We're joined today by Patrick Olson with Carfax. We're talking all things car related. We're talking about flooded out cars. We're talking about maintenance issues. Whatever you got, you can send us that question right now. All right, this first question is it better to lease new or buy a car right now?
So I would say this depends a lot on your personal finances, but at the moment, given high interest rates, I would be very tempted to lease a car. That way I can work with them on, used car prices are pretty high, which today means residual prices should be pretty high, which normally brings down the cost of leasing. Because if the car is still worth a lot of money after 3 years, then it costs you less because depreciation is less. So for me, I would be very interested in leasing. However, if you want, to build up equity in your car, buying is an alternative. Interest rates are pretty high right now, 7-8% for new cars. There's talk that the Federal Reserve is going to lower interest rates next month, and so that might be a reason to wait. But for a lot of folks, you don't have a choice of when you need a car. So for me, I would choose leasing at this point.
Okay. This person's asking, I'm new in North Carolina. What is a salvage title?
So I can't speak specifically to North Carolina's definition, but just typically, a salvage title is when you have a vehicle that has either been in an accident or had a major engine failure, and the insurance company or the DMV of that state has designated that as a salvage vehicle. Most often, those vehicles are used for parts or other types of equipment taking off. But some people like to get a car like that and restore it. But you should be very leery of any car that's got a salvage title on it. And again, make sure you put it through a rigorous check with a mechanic before you buy something like that.
This person says, if the airbag light is on in your car, is it okay to have it repaired by an independent mechanic, or should you take it straight to the dealer?
So either party, an independent mechanic or a dealership, can fix that for you. But as we cautioned about a month ago, there are a lot of counterfeit airbags out there. So if you go to some place and they offer to put in a airbag for only $200 instead of the normal $1,000, then you should be very concerned about that. And I would say, make sure that the mechanic you go to, whether it's a dealership or independent, that they're checking for the right type of markings on the airbag to make sure that you can make sure that it's connected correctly. And if it's like a Takata airbag recall, you definitely want to go to the dealership first because they're going to replace that for free for you.
Labor and all of the things, the whole kit and
Yes,
caboodle.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And since we're on the subject of dealers and things of that nature, when is it best to go to a regular mechanic or the dealer for any of your regular maintenance?
So there's kind of a myth out there that dealerships are always more expensive than independent mechanic shop. It's not the case. So you got to be a wise consumer. Do some shopping around, call in advance, say, these are the types of work I need to get done. What are you going to charge me for all of that? And then the thing I would do is find a mechanic that you like, whether it's at a dealership or an independent shop, and build a rapport with them. I had a great mechanic when I lived in Chicago who would say, you have to have X, Y, and Z done, but this and that, they can wait for 6 months or a year. You don't need to get them done right away. When you have that relationship, it takes a lot of the anxiety and stress out of keeping your car maintained, but you got to keep your car maintained. Don't worry about the cost now. That's a lot better than being stranded by the side of the road.
For sure. Not ever a good sign when you're stranded. We've all been there at some point in time, for sure. Both of these next questions have to deal with maybe flooded out cars. This first one is, how can you tell the difference between rust in an old car and a flooded car?
So the key thing to think about when you look at rust is, where is it? If it's in the wheel wells or in the fenders, that's very typical, very normal, right? If you have a car from up north where they have a lot of salt in winter, you'll see a lot of rust in those areas. If you see rust in the engine bay above, at the top of the engine, that's not so common. If you see rust on the interior door handles, or if you see it on the trunk latch or the hood latch, those are places that should not be rusting because they're not normally exposed to rain and salt and things like that. Those should be the trigger signs. And one of the best places is, if you see rust on the brake pedal or the accelerator, that's a big red flag.
Okay, and because the second question was, is rusted rims a sign of a flooded car? I just bought a 21 vehicle and the rims are rusted. So from what you said, the rims rusted, that should be okay.
Right, and that's going to be very normal. If it's the rims, they're always in water, so that's going to happen. So I would not be worried about that.
What about when you go to a place and they try to upsell you in all of the things? What should we know as consumers?
So I find the best solution for this is to educate yourself in advance. Read your owner's manual about what's really required for your car. Just the other day, my daughter went to a place and they tried to sell her on an engine flush. An engine flush is good if you've got a very old car that's not been running for years. An engine flush might be required. If you don't have that, you don't need an engine flush. It is basically an extended and kind of above that oil change. So do your work in advance. Look at your owner's manual, look at the maintenance schedule. A lot of these are online now, but don't do more work to your car than you have to. Do what you're supposed to, but don't get taken for a ride by doing things that you really don't need done.
Yeah, and if you're like, okay, I don't have my maintenance thing in front of me because they actually have my car right now, you can always say, hey, I'll bring it back for something like that,
Yes.
but I want to just check this out first.
Yeah, I would definitely take my time and make sure that what they're suggesting is needed, because if it needs it today, it'll still need it in a week. You got plenty of time.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to check in on the forecast. We'll be back with one last segment. Make sure you get your question in 336-379-5775.